Wrong with the connection here. Just give me a second. Yeah, so here we say, so usually traditionally we have all the brachas on the name of Havaya, and here we have the bracha in the name of Elikim. The Shem Elikim, what's the difference? We know the Shem Elikim is Midas Adin, is the attribute of judgment, and symptom and contraction. And the bracha, the whole concept of a bracha in Yonim Hu Amshachas Vashpa, to bring down the flow. And that's from Shem Havaya, because Shem Havaya is to bring down his revelation, abundance. Elikim is Tzimtzum and Din. So if you want a bracha, which is the idea of like an overflowing power, energy to come down, the bracha has to come from Shem Havaya. So why in this case does Yitzchak give the bracha in the Shem Elikim? For instance, he gives an example. Come on, Brichas Kohan, the bracha, the priestly blessing. Then the 3 verses of the priestly blessing, it says Niskar Shem Havaya. It says Yivrachecha Hashem, which is Yud Kevavke, Yar Hashem, Yisa Hashem. So we always in the bracha, which is Brichas Kohanim, which is the great tremendous blessing, we say Yud Kevavke because Yud Kevavke is Hamshacha to bring down. The Shem Yud Kevavke is the name that brings down the flow, whereas the name Elikim is the Tzamtzem, is to contract. For instance, the name Elikim, Bereshis Elikim, the world was created with the name Elikim, signifies that Hashem is concealing the concealment of godliness in order to be able to create nature. And blessing is to override nature. So why do you have a bracha from Elikim? In general, we know that the power of Teva comes from Elikim, nature comes from Elikim, and the power of miracles come from Havaya. Why? Because the miracle breaks the limitations of Elikim. So here we're saying that the blessings themselves come from Elikim, from limitations. And here the blessing, instead of saying Havaya, he could have said Vayiten Lecha Havaya. Instead, the pasuk says Vayiten Lecha Elokim, the name of Elokim. He adds, the Rebbe adds, Shdiak says Shagavi bracha Niskar Shem Elikim, who gambe bracha Rishonish Nisbarach Yitzchak Achri Mois Avram. We find also the same question that after Avram passes away in Parshas Chayei, it says Vayvorach Elokim es Yitzchak Benoi, that Elokim came and blessed Yitzchak. Again, instead of saying Vayvorach Havaya, Yud Kevavke, which again is the name that would signify Rachamim, which is bracha, which is Amshacha, flow, which is the overwhelming, to break beyond nature, the miracle, all that comes from Hashem of Yud Kevavke. Instead, it says Vayvarach Elikim es Yitzchak Benoi. That the name Elikim blesses Yitzchak, the son of Avram. The B'chol HaBrachas Sheberach HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Avram, when we find that Avram gets a blessing from Hashem, V'gam HaBrachas Sheberach es Yitzchak Shlach. Not only that, Yitzchak himself, the different blessings he gets afterwards, and we find the blessings in this week's parsha itself. When Yitzchak goes to Gror, to Plishtim, to Avimelech, Nemar Shem Havaya. There again it says Shem Havaya. From this we see the brichas harishona shebereches Yitzchak, shenemar ba vayvarach Elikim v'habracha sheberech Yitzchak v'Vayiten Lecha Elokim shayach muzel. So we see, although that traditionally, even by Yitzchak himself, the name of Yud Kevavke is used for bracha, but the very fact that in these 2 special places, one is the first blessing he gets from Hashem after the passing of his father, and number 2, the blessing he gives to Yaakov when he's standing there, that special blessing that he wants to give Yaakov before his passing, or when he thinks before his passing, although he dies much later, passes away much later, is the name of Elikim, is to show that there's a connection between the 2 blessings. What is it? So let's see. We could say the point is like this. According to what's brought down in the Siddur of Chassidus Shar HaTkiyos, that it says Shehashpa hanimsheches mihagvura sigdei liyoser mihashpa hanimsheches michsan. In order to understand this Maamar, we're going to go into that the Shem Havaya, which is usually Chesed. Chesed is usually the midah, the attribute of flowing down. The name of the attribute of Gvura is usually the limitations. But this the word Gvura itself, and the word Gibor, strength, power, force, is within the name Gvura. There's a certain force, there's a certain urgency, energy in Gvura that Chesed doesn't have. Chesed is, yes, is flow. Water flows. Water is like Chesed. Aish is like fire. Water goes down like the flow of the blessing. Fire goes up. But there's something. That doesn't have the Chesed doesn't have the urgency on its own that Gvura has. In general, chesed, the attribute of chesed comes with cold. For instance, the idea of cold, heat comes with gevura. Chesed is krirus. And this goes on in all subjects. When we talk about chesed, Alter Rebbe talks about the north being fundamentally chesed is cold. That's why it's colder in the north. The north projecting, chesed is why it's cold in the north. The south is projecting gevura, therefore the sun is stronger in the south. The woman is gevura, so by her the discharge is red, is blood. The man is chesed, the discharge is white. The seed is white. The idea of chesed with the kindness, yes, but there's a certain level of coldness that comes with chesed, krirus. So therefore, though it's a flow, there's a certain limitation because it doesn't have the passion. Passion's is in gevura. Chesed has the excitement, it has the flow, but it doesn't have that level of passion that gevura has, that strength, that urgency. Gevura is kshamim, so we have gevura ksham. Geshem is chesed, but the power of rain, we say gevura is kshamim, the strength of rain. Masha enkin ha gevura is shehem bechmimus. Gevura is passion, is fire, is heat. Hashpas mehem hi ba'ofen shel tagburas, and therefore it comes with energy. The word gevura, and fundamentally, the chesed doesn't surpass limitations. So it's a chesed up until a certain point. Gevura has that urgency that overrides limitations. Okay, so he says that chesed before he says lachen hashpa mehem hi b'agbala. When it comes to gevura, he says mehem hi ba'ofen shel tagburas adribe b'li gevura, without any limitations. So based on this, we see that there's a value when it comes to bracha that comes from gevura, from Elokim. So it's explained over there in the Siddur with Chassidus in Sharat Kiyas. It says, therefore we find that when you analyze the actual blessings that Yitzchak said, although Yitzchak is gevura, because he's gevura, notwithstanding the gevura, because although we look at gevura from one side, we look at gevura from a limited space, but it also has that power. And therefore, when he wants to override something, so then it comes with such tremendous blessings that we find Yitzchak that we don't find anywhere else. Vital Hashemayim, Shmani Haaretz, the kind of brachas that Yitzchak gave were the most tremendous blessings. So what is it? What does it mean? Just to analyze for a second. So although we say gevura's limitations, but to limit itself takes strength. It means it's there's a certain urgency when you want to limit something. You're realizing you don't want it to be too much. There's a certain pressure in gevura that chesed doesn't have. Chesed's kind of like Yitzchak. Avram says, let Yishmael live. Avram says, just give everyone. He'll give anyone. Chesed, he gives anyone. Gevura has some sort of tension and pressure. Usually the pressure is to condense. But when the pressure is going the other direction, so then it's coming down with blessings that no one ever blessed before. Like the Rebbe says, we don't find the energy of the bracha that Avram has or Yaakov. Like the brachas of Yitzchak. Yitzchak had the most powerful of the blessings. Why? Because Yitzchak is gevura. The Yitzchak, therefore the blessings of Yitzchak come with an abundance. Because when it's going in the direction of expansion versus of contraction, so it expands with much more energy than what chesed would be giving. That's why the verse says, Abraham, that after Abram passes away, that's why again, the first time we find the name of Elokim by Yitzchak is when Hashem blesses Yitzchak after the passing of his father. Why? Abraham, because in the life of Abraham, he signified bechinas chesed, kindness, bechinas chesed. So the energy in heaven, so to say, reflected Abraham, or vice versa. Abraham reflected in heaven, but the energy above was like Abraham, which was chesed. Therefore, the pasuk says, after Abraham passes away, then things change. From Avram Chesed went into the Anhaga, to the behavior of Yitzchak. And God also reflected that behavior. So therefore, the bracha comes in the way of Yitzchak of Gevura, which is the power of Elokim when it's expanding. Api midasi Yitzchak, the attribute of Yitzchak, which is Gevura. Is therefore Nimshcha brachas Hagvuras to Shem Elokim. It comes from the power of Shem Elokim. When Elokim is not contracting but giving. In footnote number 9, the Rebbe says that this power for Yitzchak to be this kind of focused energy. If you see, it says Re'ei Siddur Sham. It quotes the Siddur from the Alter Rebbe that he said of Chassidus that Shashba me'Gvuras to Yitzchak. What does it mean that Yitzchak gives power from Gevura? He davka achish nimtek b'achsadim d'Avram means it was Avram's chesed that pushed the direction of it. Means we have a force, so the force is contracting. The force is going inwards. If Avram's avoda is chesed, and therefore he's sweetening, and instead of the contracting, it's in a way of chesed giving. So he's directing the gevura in another direction. That's why the pasuk says, "Why does it say that Hashem blessed the son of Avram?" Because it's the fact that the way gevura is affected by the chesed of Avram. So again, we're holding footnote number. We're holding over here. Let's go back to the Pnim. It says, "Shehein brachas na'as b'yosef." The brachas that Hashem gave Elokim is the brachas mimicking, so reflecting, mirroring the energy of Yitzchak, but in a way of gevura, of powerful giving. Brachas and mishachas masadim even more powerful than the brachas of Chesed, and therefore it uses the name Elokim to signify that. Means although one may have thought that the name Elokim is the contraction, the limitations, no. This is Elokim going the other direction, pushing forward. Like we say, Gevur's Kshamim. This Geshem is the flow, but the powerful, when it has Gevura, then it's the power of rain, not just light rain. So too when Yitzchak blesses Yaakov. It's again a very fundamental point in the continuation of the legacy of the fathers, going from Yitzchak to Yaakov. Therefore, we mention Elokim. When it has to pass from Avram to Yitzchak, we go on the Kim. When it has to pass from Yitzchak to Yaakov, we need that energy, that push forward with the name of the Kim. Not even Chesed. It should come in abundance and powerful. So what we're answering, basically based on the Siddur of the Alter Rebbe in Shar, in the gate of Tkiyos, is that yes, Elokim traditionally represents limitations, helem, concealment, voracious, but Elokim, teva, nature, etc., like we said before. But but it's energy. So the same energy that contracts, if you turn to the other direction, and especially that's why it says it's that by Baruch Elokim es Yitzchak benoi, the son of Avram, meaning turning the gevur the other direction. Therefore, God mirrors that it's not just a blessing of chesed, it's a powerful blessing of gevura, but going in the direction of down. So too when Yitzchak blesses Yaakov, Vayiten Lecha Elokim, he gives in that way of the powerful blessings of Yitzchak going downwards towards Yaakov. And therefore the blessings of Yitzchak are so powerful. Okay, let's continue. The Rebbe continues, HaBracha sheberech Yitzchak Vayiten Lecha Elokim, this blessing that we just said. So now it's coming from Elokim, but the way of Elokim, of gevura, and a powerful way of blessing. Here the Rebbe says an amazing idea. That this bracha of gevura, of power, that Yitzchak blesses Yaakov, is even greater than the bracha that God blesses Yitzchak. And God blessed Yitzchak, mirroring Yitzchak's energy of gevura. How do we know? The Rebbe builds a case for this. Because the bracha that Yitzchak is blessed by God, the name Elokim, is Haisa was, continue to pay the next page, he would have automatically gone to Yaakov. I mean, the blessing of Hashem to Yitzchak was that it should go to Yaakov. How do we know? What's the proof? From Rashi. Rashi says on the pasuk on the verse, that why does Rashi say by Baruch Elokim es Yitzchak benai? Why does God have to bless Yitzchak? Why didn't Avram bless Yitzchak? Why don't we find that Avram blessed Yitzchak? So it says, Rashi quotes, Shavram nisyar levarach et Yitzchak. Avram was concerned to bless Yitzchak. Why? Because he looked at he saw the future, and he saw who's coming from Yitzchak, Esav. He didn't want to. He was concerned. He was scared. And if he's going to bless Yitzchak, automatically the blessing goes from Yitzchak to his children, and Esav included. And he didn't want to. He was scared to bless Yitzchak if it's going to go to Esav. So he said, Rashi quotes, Amar Yavei Bal HaBrachas V'Barachas Shayita Beinav. No, no, let God. God is the one who blesses. He's the master of the blessing. Let the master of the blessing bless how he sees fit. If he feels that Yitzchak should get a bracha, it's on him. I'm not taking that responsibility. Therefore, it says, "But and he blessed them." Meaning, from this is understood. Had just like had Avram blessed Yitzchak, Avram was concerned. It would have went to his children, i.e., including Esav. Even if he didn't bless Yitzchak, even if Yitzchak wouldn't bless Esav. Avram was concerned to bless Yitzchak because automatically would go to Esav, to his children, and Esav included. So to over here, so the same thing that when Hashem came and blessed Yitzchak, and Avram said, "Let he who blesses bless who he sees fit," meaning Hashem. Meaning to say that it automatically would have gone to Esav and Yaakov. So meaning to say that the bracha that Hashem gave Yitzchak was anyways going to Yaakov. When Yitzchak gives a bracha to Yaakov, now it's an additional blessing. That's what they're saying. Because he wouldn't have to bless Yaakov to get the initial blessing that Hashem blessed Yitzchak, because that was the whole reason why Avram didn't want to bless him in the first place. So for my case, the bracha that automatically the blessing that God gave Yitzchak automatically goes to his descendants, his two children, which includes Esav. Therefore, we have to say that bracha sheberech Yitzchak, this bracha that Yitzchak gives extra to Yaakov or Esav, if he thinks it's Esav, or he wanted to give Esav or Yaakov. So we have to say, is he bracha al Yosef is an additional blessing, not just an additional, a higher blessing. That's why Yaakov put in all this crazy effort, this tremendous effort. He did things out of his character. The Kabbalah brachas to receive these blessings. Why? Because of the blessings he would have gotten automatically that God blessed Yitzchak. That he was going to get anyways. He needed to get these blessings and wanted to get these blessings, which were much more powerful. Because the blessing that God gave Yitzchak, that he would have gotten anyway. The proof again is that Avram was scared to bless him because he was scared to go automatically to his children, including Esav. Because that's why he put in all this effort to get this additional blessing that was not included in God's blessing. Because how high this blessing was, meaning to say it's even greater. This is even greater than the blessing that Elokim gave Yitzchak initially after the passing of Avram, which Yaakov was going to get anyways. This blessing is on top, it's an addition. And greater than that, that's why Yaakov puts in all the efforts with Yaakov and Rivka, put in all their efforts to get this blessing. So what is it? What is this extra blessing that Yitzchak gives Yaakov? It's even greater, worth this whole risk that Yaakov was concerned that he may get cursed, and Rivka said, "It's on me." He took tremendous risks. The Rebbe says he went to Mesiras Nefesh for these brachas. Why did he go to Mesiras Nefesh for these brachas, even out of his character? Because they're so important. Yaakov gets these blessings because they were not included. These are greater blessings than the blessings God himself gives to Yitzchak. So what does this mean? The Rebbe explains. Even the Behektim will understand this. Hamavur b'Torah, or this that it says in Torah, or Parsha Seinu in our Parsha. I'm trying to see if he says in. So if you see in footnote number 11, he says, Yaakov's character, his efforts that he went to try to get these blessings were out of character for Yaakov, of doing in Yoni Mirmo, trying to fool his father. And the Rebbe says, who Mesiras Nefesh Mamish. It was Mesiras Nefesh, not just to how he did it, but the idea of going out of his character is Mesiras Nefesh. But nevertheless, that's how important the blessings were, that he was ready to go self-sacrifice out of his character, fooling his father officially, in order to receive these blessings. So what is this over? The Rebbe says, if you and Zebehegdim will understand this, if Dalid, Vor b'Torah or Parsha, saying that this that it says in Torah or Parsha, or B'Kamitrim in other places of Chassidus, what was this? This idea that's spoken about primarily in the last Maamar by Yorach as Begodov, that it talks about Yitzchak wanting, explains why did Yitzchak want to bless Esav? One of the signs that he was concerned that this wasn't Esav was because Yaakov was mentioning God's name too often. That wasn't in the character of Esav. So he knew that wasn't in the character of Esav to talk about Hashem. He knew Esav was not Yaakov. He knew he wasn't your yeshiva boy. He knew he wasn't sitting in the tent of the oil of Shem and Aver. He wasn't sitting in the yeshiva, he was studying Torah. And the proof is that he thought, he was suspicious that this was Yaakov. Why? Because Yaakov is mentioning God's name. Hihikra Avaya, right? Ki Yitzchak Rosh ve'Esav Yeshin Tzutzum Tekdushas, the Rebbe explains in Torah. Because Yitzchak saw in Esav the great sparks, Gavoyim Yoid, that were very high, the world of Tohu, the world of chaos. And he wasn't going to give up on Esav. There was so much potential there in Esav, notwithstanding of how complicated it was to try to get those sparks. He figured to bless him, to kind of put on him this tremendous energy. He said, this is the great blessing, the powerful blessing. Why? By blessing with this powerful blessing, this would bring and elevate and separate the sparks. He figured to bomb him, so to say, spiritually, with a blessing that would bring out the potential, all the sparks within Esav. However, why didn't Hashem want that to happen? But if you would put such a powerful blessing, again, Vayiten Lecha Elokim is this very powerful blessing, very powerful, so to say, spiritual bomb, that he would give such an energy to Esav, Shloya de Yaakov, if it wasn't filtered through Yaakov, which is that's why Yaakov got the blessing. And Yaakov's the whole avoda from meeting Esav. Again, it says, he says, we're going to meet again. When are we going to meet again? After this whole job is done. After I'm totally able to refine you. And Yaakov felt maybe in 22 years he was able to do it. And therefore he figured that maybe Yaakov was, that's what it says in Vayishlach. He says, I'm ready. Maybe you're also ready. And the angel said, no, he's not ready. And what did we do with the past 3,000 years is dealing with the sparks. That had to go be filtered through Yaakov. So, but had it been given to Esav directly, Yaakov, not filtered through Yaakov, one or two things would have happened. Or the sparks, Esav was so deeply, the sparks are so deeply embedded within Esav that the powerful lights that were trying to take it out would have gotten lost. And we've had that before in history. A tremendous light comes down and gets nivla, gets swallowed up. Which means it's so now you don't get it. That's what it says. It's brought down. But why did Hashem have to save the Jewish people out of Mitzrayim? It's brought down. Had a malach, had a shliach, had any other energy try to take the Jewish people out of Egypt, it would have gotten nivla, it would get swallowed up, and then it would become a force of energy to negative, to tumah. So the concern was that had Yitzchak blessed Esav with this powerful blessing, either Esav was so powerfully lost in Tuma, and the sparks were so deep that the lights would get swallowed up in Esav. Or it would be too powerful and have the opposite effect. It would overwhelm him. He would lose his whole identity. The idea is keep Esav and transform him. Either it would totally take him over, or the lights would get lost. One of the two things. The only way we could keep Esav and transform him is only through Yaakov. Rivka understood that. Hashem obviously understood that. And therefore, Yaakov had to get the blessings. Although it's with the intention to do what Yitzchak wanted to, it has to be done through Yaakov. Therefore, God made it so. Yitzchak Yivarach es Yaakov, that the blessings don't go to Esav, they go to Yaakov. And these great lights of Tal HaShemayim, the dew of heaven, Shmani Aretz, and the fat of the earth, Tia the Yaakov goes through Yaakov. Yaakov is able to utilize it. The koach hatikun, the koach of fixing, the balance in Yaakov, Tiferes, is Yivaras and Itzusish Esav. Esav can't fix himself. He can't be fixed directly, and he can't fix himself. Either he gets overwhelmed and totally loses his identity, or he's so powerfully impure that he swallows it, the light. I think we're going to stop here. And the next, we'll try to finish tomorrow. We have 2 more pages. We have 5 and 6 left. So we'll leave the next 2 pieces for tomorrow. We'll start from Sif Hey. I just want to bring down, he says over here, it's footnote number 14. We have a few minutes. He says in footnote number 14, he's talking about that Shem Shemaim Shagu Befiv, that Yitzchak was wondering about. The person standing in front of him was mentioning God too much. So he says, there's a question, he brings down the medrash that says, She'ein Esav maskish Moshe Kadosh Baruch Hu. The question is if the Rebbe's in the footnote, okay, say it outside. The Rebbe's in the footnote is the question is if it's Shem Shemaim Shavar B'Fiv, if he sometimes, with Pa'amim Humaskir, sometimes he'd mention God or never mention God. So he says that the Ein Esav Maskir Shem Havaya. There's the idea that it's brought down that he doesn't mention the name. But the question is how much he doesn't mention the name. But either way, Esav, Yitzchak knows Esav. The point is Yitzchak knows Esav is so to say the way he is now in this world is bad news. He's not fooled by Esav's behavior here. He has so much faith in his potential, which is an amazing thing about Yitzchak. The faith he has in Esav's potential, but just in order to bring out that potential, where his mistake was, so to say, Lahavdil, was that he thought that Esav could handle this powerful blessing and the potential would come out. And what Rivka and Hakadosh Baruch Hu understood was that it has to be filtered through Yaakov. Esav on his own, he can't handle it. Either he loses himself, he loses his whole character, or he swallows it. But to be able to remain that character that gets transformed for positive, that was impossible. All right, thank you for joining, and as